Have you ever been in a situation where your phone rings and you just start getting anxiety? This is the feeling that I used to get every single time my phone rang. And sometimes it will ring at odd hours, like 3 in the morning, 2 in the morning. In this video, I'm going to be talking about why I stopped sending money to Africa. For me, I've been sending so much money back home, sometimes 300, 400 pounds over the years. And one day, I went to Zimbabwe for a holiday, and this holiday was special because I spent about 6 weeks there. Prior to that, it used to be 3 weeks, and then I had to rush back. Okay, so first I need to add a disclaimer here. This is by no means me trying to say to anyone or suggest to anyone that you should not help your parents or you should not help your relatives. I actually have the belief that if there is any sort of like emergency where someone has to go to the hospital, someone has a disease and that kind of stuff, they should be helped, you know. What I'm talking about here is just your general monies that we send back home. So in my case, and I'm talking about me here, in my case, I started to realize that the money I was sending, 300, 400 every month, was a lot of money because when it comes to the food and just the rest of the things that the money was needed for, it was just way too much. So the area that I really focused on was the food itself. I started to realize that something as basic as vegetables were being bought, you know, and just vegetables alone can cost up to $100 easily if you're spending an average of $3 a day. So this is one area that had to be changed. You know, I started suggesting that they start to grow their own vegetables. Secondly, I also had some family members who were not going to work, giving an excuse that life is so difficult in Zimbabwe. So this one really annoyed me so much because whenever I was traveling and walking around, I used to ask people, even the guys that sell airtime, how much money are they making a day? And some of these guys, they're making $30, $20 per day. A guy selling mops or brooms is making 10, 20, $30 a day. So I look at some of my relatives and they just blame the system, saying there's no jobs, there's no jobs. But I started realizing that it wasn't just about the jobs, but it was about a mindset. It was more the money is coming anyway, so why work? That was sort of like the attitude. And what used to hurt me the most was when I was sending these monies, sometimes you would not even get a confirmation that, hey, we received the money. Because I think back then we were sending it through a third party, so they needed to be confirmation that, yes, we received the money. And I ended up chasing up, making these calls, saying, hey, have you received the money? Have you received the money? So that at least I'm at peace. Because for me, it was a lot of money. Sometimes I also think that there was an emphasis on send money back home. We need money because the idea of people back home then was there was a lot of money in England. So it made people relax a lot. But there was no way of me communicating that I was struggling. There was no way of me communicating that. And even if I did, it was very hard to get that message through because a lot of people at the time, they were buying stands, they were buying combis, they were buying trucks. So for me to say, nope, I can't send money, it seemed like I was being difficult and I didn't want to help my family. But that wasn't the case. But anyway, where I'm going with this is I started noticing that the lifestyle that I was living in England versus the lifestyle of people in Zimbabwe, there was a massive difference. I mean, bear in mind, I left in 2001. So when things got difficult in Zimbabwe in 2006, 2007, I wasn't there. And all we heard was things were very hard, things were very tough. I'm not downplaying that idea, but my point is That idea carried on even when things got better. And that for me was it was a game changer when I got to be on the ground spending money and trying to analyze how is it possible that a small family can spend as much as 400 US dollars a month in Zimbabwe. So anyway, what I started doing was I started cutting down the amounts of monies being sent, just trying to see what happens. And to my surprise, at first it was tough, but to my surprise, I started realizing that, people started going to work and the attitude had changed. So I was asking myself now, over these years, why didn't I do this? Because it had been a couple of years of me doing all this. So in a way, I was regretting, but at the same time, I was also happy that I was able to find out this information because I had to be on the ground longer. There are so many people. I mean, I'm not one of them. There are so many people who are paying school fees for their brothers, their sisters, and all this is black tax. In my opinion, as a man, we have to be self sufficient. We have to take care of our business, whether we are in Zimbabwe, Nigeria, wherever it is. We cannot just wait and say, just because someone is in England, they're going to do it for us. I don't think it's fair. At least try and then get help after trying. There's also a lot of money that was spent or sent on the guise of starting a project. I'm sure some of you have heard this. We need money for a project. I mean, I've done this, spent so much money, but I realized that these monies were not really for projects. They were just monies that became an excuse for sending money. And it all came with an emotional backstory to it. But my point is, when I stopped sending this money, I started getting my freedom back because I had now time to focus on my family here in England. I had time to invest into my business. And my debt was less because sometimes I would ignore certain bills because I had to send money back home. So this really gave me a breakthrough because I was able now to sleep well at night. Remember the phone call I spoke about earlier? There's certain ringtones where when I heard it, oh my goodness, I'll just feel my stomach going funny because something is up, something is wrong. Here we go again. So all that is gone now. So what I do now is I help when I can at my pace and I don't really stress myself as I used to before. And the funny thing is, when you suggest that people go and do some work, they are resistant to that idea because the answer is always there are no jobs. But when you stop the money, people always make a plan. That is what I found very fascinating. That sometimes you just have to put your foot down and things just change and they start working for the better. But as I mentioned before, I know there's going to be a lot of people saying, well, what you did was wrong. You're supposed to help people. The situation in Zimbabwe is bad and all that. I understand the situation is bad, but in every bad situation, you have to come up with a way to make things work. And in the case of Zimbabwe, I mean, guys, there's other countries that are really, really bad. I don't think Zimbabwe is as bad as we try to make it seem. Think of countries like Somalia, Sudan, Palestine, where there's constant war. Can we really compare that to Zimbabwe? No. I think sometimes we just have to change our attitude towards our situation and really be proactive and take action when it comes to change ourselves. That's what I think. And while we're on that note, there's an investment opportunity in Zimbabwe through Kumusha Investments. Kumusha Investments is a platform where there'll be opportunities to invest back home because over the times we've had issues where we send money back home to build our houses or to invest in farming or any other venture, and we find that the monies just fall into the hands of scammers. And these scammers can be even in the form of family members, it can be, friends, people we trust. So this platform here is different because it is going to be a trust-based solution which has accountability built in. So if you're going to be an investor, you're going to have your own investment app where you can see everything that's happening, including bank statements. So this is a unique approach, and I think for those of us who want to retire back home, or for those of us who want to take advantage of all these opportunities happening in Zimbabwe, this is the right time using this platform. So go ahead and become part of the community and be alerted every time there's investment opportunities in Zimbabwe. Okay, so enough about that. So anyway, back to our story. Sending money back home. I know we send billions, especially for Zimbabwe. It's what, 3 billion every year? That's a lot of money. Do what you got to do, but just be careful that sometimes you are having a worse off lifestyle here while people back home are having a much better lifestyle than yourself. Because we're talking about people having housemaids, gardeners, and all that kind of stuff. Here in England, people do their own work. They do their own dishes, they clean their own house even after work. So that's what I'm talking about. Anyway, what are your thoughts on sending money back home? Are you still sending money back home? Do you find that there's nothing wrong with it and you should continue? I want to hear your thoughts. I mean, this is an open discussion. Of course, it has to be respectful, otherwise, I do not approve those comments. Anyway, guys, until next time, thanks for watching, and I'll see you again in the next one. Take care.